In today's video, I'm going to have a cup of tea and a chat with you about a problem, a teaching problem. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee and get comfortable because we're going to have a chat. Welcome to my channel. This is Kafoople Land and I am EJ Kafooples. I'm just going to have a bit of a chat with you today about an issue. A beautiful young teacher, female teacher, expressed on Facebook how she was having difficulty with her Year 8 English class, and I chimed in and gave her my 2 cents worth. And then I wanted to say more, I wanted to say a lot more, and so I contacted her and I said, look, I have a YouTube channel, would you mind if I read out your problem on my channel and talked through what I think is happening in that particular situation? She said, no, that's totally fine. I promised her I wouldn't use her name, of course, out of respect for her privacy. But I think this is an issue that really needs to be addressed. The situation that she was describing, actually, I'll read it to you. I've got it here. I've had some of these things happen to me. I've been teaching a long time now though, and I know the context. I know the type of kid who sits in my classroom, and I know exactly how I would deal with this. So just let me read it to you. It says, I have a difficult 8th grade class. Yesterday I was called a racist by a student because I wrote him up for using inappropriate sexual language. I have 4 kids who want to learn and the rest just don't care. Today a student told me that he's not paying attention because literature class is boring. All we do is read stories and talk about obvious details. I thanked him for letting me know and told him I would be happy to make the lessons more challenging so he wouldn't be bored. He said, okay, that's if I turn in the assignment. I already know that I can't allow them to work in groups or pairs because they view this as free time and class would be a disaster. I have these kids for 90 minutes every day. I introduce the story and skills, they read, we discuss, they complete higher level thinking questions. It is boring, but I don't know what else to do because of the behaviour issues. My dream would be to have online discussion, but technology is an issue. I would love some help on this, thank you. So where I teach, these attitudes are quite common. I teach in a low socioeconomic area, so education is not necessarily valued. I teach in a public school, so we have all kinds of kids. This is not the case for all of the kids, but I have seen this attitude time and time again. First of all, I've got a few suggestions, and I'd love to hear your suggestions too in the comments for this poor woman who's really struggling. She really wants her lessons to be interesting and she really wants the kids to learn, and she's up against this. So first of all, 90-minute periods are massive. For kids in this day and age, to expect them to sit still and listen for 90 minutes, I just think is crazy. At my school we have 53-minute periods, and for some of my classes that is too long. They just don't have the attention span anymore. And if you think about what kids entertain themselves with at home, with all the screens and the quick shots, and some of their diets are high in sugar and preservatives, they just can't do it. They cannot do it. Nevertheless, oftentimes as teachers we are placed into a system that we can't change, and we have to just try and work around it. So my suggestion for this would be to chunk the lessons into segments, 20-minute segments I would suggest, half-hour max. Give the kids an activity to do. Don't expect yourself to do chalk and talk the whole time because you can't sustain that. You won't have the energy to sustain that for 90 minutes yourself. And the kids will get sick of one type of instruction model. So as you change the activities, change up the instruction model, get the kids doing more things rather than you just directing everything. It may even be a case where you have to get the kids to stand up and move around and move their bodies to sort of reset their little brains so that they can concentrate again for the next 20 minutes. But you can't expect yourself or them to go for 90 minutes solid. I just think that's really unfair on everybody. So right from the beginning, you know that you're up against something that's really tricky. So work around that. I would consider Headspace as well to try and motivate the students. Maybe you could set up a little bit of spirit of competition and get the class to compete against themselves or each other in some little games. I think that relationships are really important in this situation. So I want to address the comment about racism. That is not acceptable at all. what's happening there is a power struggle, and that student is trying you out. He or she, I think it was a he, is trying to see how many buttons of yours they can push and how much they can get away with. I don't say that to minimize his comment. His comment needs to be taken really, really seriously, and he needs to be referred to your superior, whoever that is. I don't know the school system that you have there, but in my case that would be my head teacher or my deputy, depending on how the child reacted to the head teacher. Now, as far as the other comments go, same thing. It's a power play from this child. They are trying to push you and see how much they can get away with. So, in one sense, you want to address it as in game on. I mean that in a positive way, as in you're not here to fight with them, but to me as a teacher, that would be a challenge for me to think, okay, I'm going to win this child over. Not that I want to be their favourite teacher, but that I want to see them achieve something in my class. And so I will think outside the box, and I'll figure out a way to tap in to them and to see what learning difficulties they may have, to see the way that they learn, to see what they're interested in. And in order to do that, you have to build up the relationship. So obviously, if it's the start of the year, which I think it is over there in the United States, still the start of the year. So these students probably don't know you very well yet, and it does take time to build up relationships, to build up trust, to build up a rapport, and for them to get to know your personality and for you to get to know theirs. Be patient on this. Be responsive, not reactive. So when he says things like this and you know it's a power play, don't react, but show him through your language and through your body language that you are there for the long haul, and you are going to be on his side. You're there to help him, because we don't know what his background is. We don't know what he's dealing with at home. It sounds to me like it could be a self-confidence issue, and they're lashing out in ways to cover that up. They may have an issue with women. You don't know. You don't know what their background is, but nevertheless, that's no excuse. You are the authority figure, and you need to establish your authority in that classroom. That will be shown through things like consistent trust, like I mentioned, with the relationships and rapport, consistency, fairness, and fairness is shown by you demonstrating that you will listen to all students and that you will consider their perspectives, but at the end of the day, you are in charge of the classroom. And gently but firmly and consistently, you need to give him that message, loud and clear. I'm calling this deactivating the clown. He is playing the role of class clown. And don't forget, when we were teenagers, that peer group was very powerful. And from your perspective, you're just looking at the class from the front of the room, figuratively speaking and literally speaking. You're just looking at the class from the front of the room. So you see yourself and you see a pack of students. They see themselves as part of this pack, and they want to get a response from the pack. They want to be accepted by the pack. They want to get a laugh from the pack. And I suspect that the power play is not just between you and him, but he's very aware of how the peer group is responding to him. I would hedge a bet that he's got some kind of learning difficulty or a difficulty at home, and in his defensiveness or in his lashing out at you, he's just trying to cover that up. You need to make it your mission to win that child over through those things that I mentioned before. Not through pandering to him, but showing him fairness and consistency, trust, all those things. It'll take time, but you can do it. Boring is a word that is thrown around a lot by kids, and in my experience, it's another power play.